We were asked to give a shir today on other topics. And last night I was thinking, what type of topics could we discuss? The HaRav HSukkah. So I had an interesting thought. You know, the past few months ago, we lost the Sa'ar Torah. Chaim Kanievsky. Gadol Torah, Gadol Adar, Managadar. And he was a tzina to all of us. To somewhat of it. When the Gadol Adar is nifta, he's a tzina of Torah to all of us. So you have a Sunday that Shlomo got together and the Olam got together, all the Balabatim over here live, the ones that are online on Zoom, and got together to have more limud Torah. So it's a meridig schus. That's the only way. There's not going to be one replacement to Reb Chaim. So I myself have hundreds of tshuvas to Reb Chaim, and on Sukkah especially, with the first time I put out my sefer, I had hundreds of tshuvas as I write that I would even, I'm a little embarrassed to say, but sometimes when you wrote too much from one name, they wouldn't answer. The Gabayim over, they wouldn't answer. So I sent it on other addresses. And I was young and I was a chaverman. And I believed that it was the Gabayim. I really still believe so, that Reb Chaim wouldn't care to answer a few more questions. What would make a difference whose name it was? It didn't get to him. You know, once they saw his name, they just stopped at the door. So like this, I got hundreds and hundreds of tshuvas on Sukkah, on the Bunim, and on Masechtas Yuma. I wrote the whole chibur, just the tshuvas that he gave me. So obviously we know that Reb Chaim's tshuvas were not lengthy at all. If a word or two or three, if you were lucky, you got a little more than that. I remember I sent him, and once I was trying to figure out this minhag to jump by Moshe Emes, and I don't even know if I don't know if the Chassidish shuls they do that, but in the Litvish shuls, the yeshivas, they do it. So I kept on asking him, what's the minhag to jump by Moshe Emes and Simcha Torah? Moshe Emes, Matans, we jump. And he wouldn't answer. And I sent it again and again, and finally just like he threw like minhag Panavish, like the Hakish Kachaynik, you know what I mean? I think in my sefer I took out Panavish, I wrote minhag yeshivas, but basically, there's different timing, whatever it was. Bekitzer was telling you don't have to jump and do what you want, Bekitzer, but we know that it wasn't a joke. Reb Chaim took it serious, and there's many stories of Reb Chaim that they asked him, why are you answering these letters? And every yachid writes you a letter, it takes up so much of your time. If you ever saw pictures of the letters that were written over there, and the son would sit there and pass over the letters, and at the end they didn't even give out. They kept his ksav yad. If someone's going to sell you his letters, because it could be his son's ksav yad, because at the end the children kept it.
I was able to sit there once for an hour in the room while he was answering. And the answer was all his, every single thing.
The shah is what they sent, but in the mail.
I don't know.
Yeah. So I had someone check my letters, it was his ksav yad, but I could upon him. So his tshuvas were one, like we said, very short and kitzur. But I never asked him just time what's the pshat and something. I would go through the sugi myself and then ask him the shayla. And by me, I had a lot of chashivas that when someone like in that caliber would write 2 words, it meant a lot. So I'm going to go through a few interesting shaylas again. I'm not just going to say over the shayla and the answer, and then that we could do 150 in 10 minutes. We're going to go through some topics which are interesting to Rutzim, and by me, I take it serious as answers. And I'm not saying, Reb Chaim Kanievsky himself asked his own shaylas to Reb Gedalia Nadel. That means he didn't call every time that you see a sefer, a psak of Reb Chaim Kanievsky, the person should write on top of it, Shaloi Lamaisa, because Reb Chaim Kanievsky said himself, he's not here to pass on the Maisa. But even if that's true, but he's put thought into it, and Reb Chaim Kanievsky's half a minute of thought, it could be hours by us of thinking. So therefore, let's start going through some of the shaylas, and we'll discuss the topic in length, and then we'll see how many shaylas we can get to. Again, there are many, many interesting shaylas that I have, and therefore we'll see how much we can reach. I'll tell you one shayla as follows. Reb Chaim Kanievsky, his gabbai, one of his gabbayim is Abel Yuman, and he writes over there in the sefer called Derech Sicha. Derech Sicha is ala Torah, very interesting sefer. Came out like 20 years ago. There's 2-3 volumes. And over there he writes as follows. That he brings to Reb Chaim Kanievsky. He would sit with him every day breakfast, and he would talk to him and learning, and then he would write it over. So he says that if someone goes ahead and he wants to go ahead and be Mekayim the mitzvah sukkah every moment. So he says, make sure to sit in the sukkah every moment. So he says that in Mispal Chutz L'Sukkah, he says, are you Mekayim the mitzvah sukkah? What does that mean, Mekayim the mitzvah sukkah? So he wants to know, is it shaykh to get a mitzvah sukkah even though you're not in the sukkah? That was the shayel's question. So he writes in Derech Sicha, Mekayim mitzvah sukkah afilu k'shu chutz l'sukkah. You're getting a kiyam mitzvah sukkah even though you're not sitting in the sukkah. The hainu mispal chutz l'sukkah, you go outside to daven, kivan the chol hashana eina mispal, but base it is the lashon of Derech Sicha. Im came besukkas k'shahoylech lebeis hamedrash l'spalel oisve teishu came to duru umekayim bezeh mitzvah. That is the lashon of Derech Sicha. The lashon of Derech Sicha is that a person's mekayim the mitzvah sukkah even though he's not in the sukkah. So I asked him, "Are you serious about this?" Basically, that was my whole question. Could you get the mitzvah sukkah outside the sukkah? That was my question to Reb Chaim. They're quoting you in Derech Sicha that you're saying that even though you're not in the sukkah, you could be getting the mitzvah sukkah. So I asked Reb Chaim, is that for real? Simple question. So he answered me, Ulai. Okay, now, how in the world could he answer me, Ulai? How could you get the mitzvah sukkah if you're not in the sukkah? How's it shaykh such a din? You ever saw someone not shaking lulav? He bought the lulav, and he goes ahead and gets the mitzvah lulav, even though he didn't shake it. Not shaykh. So let me explain to you the yichus to this question. Why I asked him this question, why I was all excited when I saw this Derech Sicha. I printed the Sukkot Chaim, let's say 15 years ago. And I wrote in the Sefer, it's sad that someone could go ahead and get the mitzvah sukkah even though he's not in the sukkah. What's the pshat? And I explained, because I'm not going to go into the whole arichas now. I think I spoke about it 2 years ago, maybe over here or something. But my explanation was that the Rambam says, the Rambam's mashma, there's two dinim. And again, I'm not going to go into arichas, but I want to tell you a very interesting Magali Yisayam. Magali Yisayam is a sefer printed on Sanhedrin. And I saw it later in the Adaris. The Adaris says, even if you're not home for sukkahs, you still should build a sukkah. Because there's a kiyam mitzvah of building a sukkah. I learned out of the Sheiltis, Chag HaSukkah is taselacha, not that you're going to sit in the sukkah. The fact that you built the sukkah, you got a kiyam mitzvah da'iraisa.
Or is it having the sukkah?
Building a sukkah.
No, separate from building. Having the sukkah, you're not building on Yontif. If you're away, should you have the sukkah in your house?
In your house, that's what we're saying. No, that's what I mean. I'm sorry, that's what I'm referring to say. That means that you're not home for the whole Yontif. You know you're not coming home. You're in Arizona. And you all live in New York. Should I build a sukkah in New York because now I made myself a sukkah, I have a sukkah for Yontif or not?
You shouldn't let anyone take it down.
Don't let anyone take it down. Zokt the Adayas, Zokt the Magal Siyam, that you have a mitzvah's kiyim, the iraisa of building a sukkah. You built a sukkah, you're not sitting in there. Chag HaSukkah is taselacha, you have a kiyim mitzvah. It's a chiddush nifla. What? It's a proper sukkah, no problem. But make sure that you have a sukkah that you could be mitzvahs to. Azay is a mechudish chiddush. You're not going to find this in Shulchan Aruch, not Magen not Taz, not Pimagan, not nothing. But upon them, these are zaytige nekudas that they write. And I have rayas to this from the Rambams and from Shulchan Aruch, the Lodge in the Shulchan Aruch. We don't have time to again in Tafesh Lametes, Sif Aleph and Sif Beis. There's two dinim. I'm not going into that.
It's not a hechsher, it's a mitzvah.
It's not just a hechsher mitzvah. It's a mitzvah to make the sukkah.
Nichlal the mitzvah mishiva.
Right, exactly. Yeah, very good. But that's all that is not still this. That means that's telling too that building a sukkah is not just a hechsher mitzvah, it's a mitzvah sukkah. Now we're saying it's normally you say, but building has to be for a kiyum. You want to make it a mitzvah, make it a mitzvah, but not it has to be for kiyum. Here, I know for sure I'm not sitting in the sukkah, I got a kiyum mitzvah. So if so Reb Chaim Kanievsky is telling you that, oh, okay, he's bringing, Daniel Kanov is bringing a pretty good dimin. He's telling you it's like tzitzis if it's chayvus mana. If tzitzis is not a chayvus gav, it's a chayvus kli. So if you have tzitzis, you mechayiv kenza, not bad, yeah. So if so, it comes out like this, that there's a mitzvah of making your sukkah. That I do before Yontif. That I get a kiyum even though I'm not in the sukkah. The fact that I made myself a sukkah, I get a kiyum mitzvah. So if so, Kumta is that Reb Chaim Kanievsky is going to learn like that. And I saw this later on in the Tshuvas Vayechi Yaakov, who's a Frierdick, he was one of the yeshivas in Chachmei Lublin. took over a Meir Shapiro, one of them. Al Kapanim said there is such a musig that you will get the Kiyam Mitzvah. Okay?
It's Maaseh and it's Teshuvah.
Exactly. Tasa and Teshu. Again, I have a big arichas on this, but I want to go into more interesting shilas. But Reb Chaim Kanievsky in Derech Sicha says that don't be this frumak, and someone asked him also, you know what? He wants to get this mitzvah. Everyone knows sukkah, it might even be shakal. We spoke about it last week. It's shakal connected kol tayak mitzvahs. I want to get the mitzvah every second of the day. Put yourself in tvisa. Not only that, the shayl asked him, should I put a basic kisa in the sukkah? Make a separate engine, put a basic kisa. So Chaim Kanievsky said, no, when you go into the bathroom, you're getting a kiyam mitzvah. Because you have to live like a normal mensch. And what's that? That's nothing to do. Even if you're not in the sukkah, you get a kiyam mitzvah. That's a chiddush nifla, and that's what the Divrei Chaim, Tzan Zeruv, wants to say pshat, sukkah, mitzvah sukkah kala. Why is mitzvah sukkah kala? The Gemara by the Zohar, everyone knows. What's so easy about it? Zok the Tzan Zeruv, because even if you're not in the sukkah, you're getting a kiyam mitzvah. Azoi zok the Divrei Chaim, which is a murder chiddush. And when I put this in my sefer, when I put this in my sefer, I had people calling me up. They bought the whole Shuvas Divrei Chaim and they didn't find this. How am I writing a Divrei Chaim? So I told them, you brought the wrong volumes. It's Divrei Chaim ala Torah.
Wow.
But the Siddim are not like it.
Now, so the
rain, they don't go out. So that means they don't hold it.
yeah, okay. One second. The Ma'aser, so I told this Yid, so this Yid tells me, showing you paskening from a Divrei Chaim ala Torah. How could you? The Torah is drush. First of all, I don't think you could say that about the Divrei Chaim. You could say that about me and you. Divrei Chaim, the drush is emes Torah. It's not like stam geplapel, chas v'shalom. That's number one. Number two is, I brought in many rayas to this Yisod that Avada, it's, okay, now let's move on to another question. I asked Reb Chaim Kanievsky as follows. Could you go ahead, it's raining in the sukkah, and you want to get a kiyam mitzvah sukkah. Could I take an umbrella and sit in the sukkah? Why not? Like this, habach the kiyam mitzvah. So let's give you a little background to such a question. Today, we have one of the Gedolei HaPoskim is the Moshe Steinbach, Ziknei Adar. He passes like this. He has a tshuva on this, and he says 2 reasons why a person should not sit with an umbrella in the sukkah. One reason is, everyone knows, what? Oil. Sukkah. We'll see in a minute about that. First, let's discuss a different thing. Everyone knows the famous Vilna Gaon. The Vilna Gaon says that when it's raining, it doesn't have a shame sukkah. Right? When it's raining on sukkahs, your sukkah is like bottle. Doesn't have a shame sukkah. Not only that, you're not allowed to sit in the sukkah maybe because you're having a nof on the sukkah. Very good. Very good.
You go to a hot place where there's no rain.
Oh, there's a shayla. I'm not getting into that. There's a shayla. How could you go to sukkahs for London if you know you're never going to sit in the sukkah? Oh, it doesn't always rain there or something? Yeah. Okay, so now that goes into the shayla. If the goyin means so wide that if in your sukkah it's not raining, but it's raining outside, are you not yaitz also? You hear the shayla? If it's raining outside, means that the Rebbeinu doesn't want you. So even though it's not raining in your sukkah, as we know today, they came out with a patent with schach that half schach, right? And they have this in England, and they brought it here to America, and it was a big nicer. I gave a share. I don't know if I gave a share over here on it. What?
They didn't like it in the end.
They didn't like it in the end. But many poskim liked it. But Yashiv and Chaim Kanievsky on this also, I asked him. And he said it's okay. Chaim Kanievsky was medamet to, let's just discuss what we were saying. We have a schach, which are a half of pipe, and then a half a pipe this way, and then a half a pipe above it. The opposite. Going into another half a pipe. You understand, Rabbi Black? So the brain's never going to get into that sukkah. It's schach, movable schach. It's not kva.
Pesach, search for a picture of this to show them. Yeah, while the Rav's talking.
Yeah. So you have a schach that go halfway like this and halfway like that, and keeps on going, and it's not going to rain in the sukkah.
Like this and like that. It looks like a W.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Came out of Belgium.
An inverted W.
It was called Antwerpische Schach when it came out. There's a sefer Kibbutz Yad HaRashaz that put out. He went through all the Gedolim. Obviously, you're putting something new like that in Klal Yisrael. He went through all the Gedolim. Rabbi Yashiv, those days, it's like 20, more than 30, 35 years ago, I think. And he went to Rabbi Yashiv, and he went to the Eidah Charedis, and he went to everyone about this. And Rabbi Yashiv said it's mutter. It's a whole sugya. You have to know Taisis on that base. I'm an aleph with a rush. And it goes into a whole sugya of what's the passless if rain can't come in. Is that a passless because that means that the schach is kva? And over here the schach is not kva? Or no, the mitzvah is that rain can't come in, is already a passless. That was really the Yisrael Machlekes. So Chaim Kanievsky says like this. Chaim Kanievsky wrote his Kitzah Shloshina, and he says, let's say you have a fan, making that the rain, a strong fan, right out the sukkah, and all the rain is going to get blown away from the sukkah. Chaim Kanievsky, you're not going to be yaitza? Everyone agrees you're going to be yaitza. So he says, this is not different than a fan. It's another chetimtza, how rain can't come in. That was Chaim Kanievsky's knech on the Shayla. And therefore Chaim Kanievsky said that it is mutter to sit in such a sukkah.
Some say if you have a roof, you should put it down because all of us are upon it. So at least you get.
You know, he's asking the kasha. So saying kasha should under a shlak. With the shlak closed, there's any kiyum.
I asked this kasha to have nothing to step as Echatzadik Lebracha, who was also murder chashaviyit lahiris nasan. About I asked him why isn't everyone mechuyev to make a shlak? Because like this, especially the chitas ben atam, kozman it's tach dal tvachim yitzel lekatchila. So you have shitas ben atam, taisa enough yud brings down shitas ben atam. Even if you don't pass on shitas ben atam, but maybe since there's different noisim, if the schach was put down first and then you put on the shlak, should be good. The kitzah, I asked many Gedolim on the shal, I didn't get a good answer. He told me very interesting about batish attach. He said because if you're going to start, the people are just going to start sitting in sukkahs with shlak even when it's not raining. Okay, it's a practical answer for the generation. You're going to start saying, okay, a shlak is good, and you're going to have people just sitting. You know what? They heard from the Rebbe that the shlak is good, and they can just keep on sitting with the shlak in the sukkah. That won't work. Okay, that's. If we want to discuss him, I have many truths them also. But the Vaila, let's go to Chaim Kanievsky. So this was the Shaila. This is what I asked Chaim Kanievsky about sitting. If it's raining in the sukkah and you're disturbed, you want to sit in the sukkah. You made yourself a beautiful sukkah. The shlak, you're not going to sit on the. So you sit on the umbrella. So again, Moshe Steinbach in his Chuvas Van Hugges Chelek Hey Simen Kuf Tzadi Tes Ois Vav writes as follows. He says, not only if you're going to say like the Vilna Gaon, it doesn't mean the Vilna Gaon, but that it doesn't have a shame sukkah, so you're wasting your time. What are you sitting in the sukkah? Go in your house where it's dry. You're wasting your time sitting with an umbrella. Then he says, even if you want to say it has a shame sukkah, but that's not Teishukan to do. Could you imagine the Chazal Mechayiv you Teishukan to do, and you're sitting there holding an umbrella and trying to eat soup at the same time? That
wouldn't apply to a shlak.
Right, a shlaka wouldn't apply, right? Huh? A patio umbrella, you're saying good? Yeah. Stick him into a hole. Or like have your wife stand there. Do stuff for him.
No, that's different. Now you're getting into a different question. It's like Kana Shalom Bayis.
Yeah, that's a chutz of Shenka de Gemasa. You hold it for me while I eat. Yeah.
The shiksa.
Yeah. The kids, So he said, so Moshe Steinbach says that Ein Zek Teishu got to do it. What did Chaim Kanievsky tell me? He said, his words were one word, mutter. It's mutter. You hear this? Chaim Kanievsky said, we don't go with the Goyen. That's Teishu got to do it, because Teishu got to do is only a chassan in the way, passes the way you're sitting it. And over here, I'm sitting kabbai, so I'm holding an umbrella. Big deal. I'm not telling you to do this again, but you want to know if you chap the juk, if it rains 7 days straight, you're not going to be able to sit in the sukkah. Chaim Kanievsky said that it's mutter to sit like that in the sukkah, and it's not considered an oil. Why? Because the opening umbrella, all that.
Muktzah, there's
carrying,
about
not so much. Oh, mal, yeah, okay, mal, yeah, there is such a thing. That's why I said oil might be a problem. But on Chalamayit, yeah, so it's good. Yeah. Next. I asked him a shayla like this.
So what's the maskan on this?
The maskan on this is don't do it because nishkan amal azach. If it's raining, go inside your house and finished. Yeah.
Why don't you be mafkir the teishu? That's what you're saying.
You be mafkir the teishu and it's nishkan amal azach. You start church minhagim. Once you start church minhagim, you're bitter. It's a bitter. Well, okay, the real rabbis that because they felt they were mitzvah b'chol. That's a murder chiddush, but they felt they were mitzvah. That's not. Mamala mentions Messiah a little bit already. The Messiah.
Let's go on. Let's go on.
Okay. Now I asked the Messiah like this. We were Bachrim in Eretz Yisrael, and Bachrim eat out by the Sudas. So we went and we ate by whatever it was, mishpacha. We come back to sleep, and now it's sukkah. So, okay, we're coming to sleep. We make a leish. If you don't make a leish, you're sleeping, you eat something, whatever it is. It's the first night. And we had a shaila, should we make a shechayanu? Why? Why should I make a shechayanu? I made a shechayanu. I heard a shechayanu by the balabas I ate by.
Not my sukkah.
But it's not my sukkah. So why would you think you have to make a shechayanu in your sukkah? Why would someone even dream of such a... Okay, bachas nishkan kasha, why we dreamt of the shaila? Because like this. Because let's say I tell you, there's two shechayanus happening the first night. You make a shechayanu ala kais. But there's two shechayanus happening. There's one for the yontif, and then there's one for the asiyah sukkah. What's my raya? Because the Gemara Batsim says that you're supposed to make a shechayanu for asiyah sukkah. Now, the Gemara Manvav. Today we're misakin kula akasa that we make everything on the kais. Fine, that's a Gemara. So now, when I'm in my sukkah, so I made notes on the base for your husband. Oh, really? Okay. He's saying that Dafiyami yesterday, Tainas Nuntas is talking about holding an umbrella for your husband?
I don't know. Shibudim. He took a
Shibudim. Okay, fine. I don't know. He got us over there. Yeah. I don't know. Kenzat. Bekitza. So we're saying over here like this. So you really need two shechayanos. Just the pshat is when I make it ala kais, I'm yaitze the shechayanu on my sukkah. The question is over here when I'm going ahead and making the bracha shechayanu by Yena's sukkah. So how do I pattern my sukkah? I'm 2 blocks away. Mit was habe ich the aptur for shechayanu on my sukkah? Now this sounds very yeshivish, This is a gay come out every single person. You go to one sukkah. Let's say we're talking about here someone that's going to their children for the first days of sukkahs. Chalamai, they're coming home to their own sukkah. Should they make another shechayanu when they come home? Right? So we were bachim then, and we asked this to B'sai Yankefishin. We're davening in Zechem Moshe then. We're learning in Briskin over there. That's what the bachim daven. We asked him B'sai Yankefishin. I don't know again why we even call him to ask him, and he said 100% you have to make another shechayanu.
Wow.
Even if you had in mind?
Even if you had in mind, it doesn't help you. It's a different sukkah. It's 2 hours later. It's 3 hours later. 100%. And I went myself and asked him again because I went and waited online again. And I said, I can't believe such a psak. And he said 100%. And we had another few bachim ask him. It was klar.
And if it was saying would be if you missed it the first night, your second day.
The second day also.
The first time you sleep in the sukkah.
Yeah, the first time you come, or you eat, whatever it is. The first time you come into your sukkah, your own sukkah on sukkahs, you have to make a bracha shechayanu. Oh, so 1 second. Oh, so Rabbi Berg is timing very good. So now let's see. So there's 2 chedushim in this psak, and this psak is very negay, and not just sukkah, it's negay lulav also. The first day, you know this year especially we'll hear by Basha Weiss exactly what type of esrog you're getting. You're ready, a little mesupik. You know what? Your roof has Moroccan, Yanava, Französische, alle sugas roigim, right? So you're going to go shake your rav's lulav, and then you'll come to yours and whatever it is. So when you come to yours, you're going to make a shechayanu on your. You're going to be stuck because you have to make a weiter shechayanu because you never had. On the same way you have to make an asiyah of sukkah, the same Gemara says you have to make asiyah on the almina. So if it's Yankovic passing on this, we were worried because once we asked, we were a little bit stuck. So there was an Alti Yid over there, Alti Yishalayim Yid. He says, "Come to my shtub. I'm going to give you a new peri." And you make a shechayanu on the peri plus the sukkah. So we did that.
The doesn't help. What do you mean? It's his sukkah.
No. We took the peri to our sukkah. He gave us a peri like this.
Paris,
he gave us a new peri, and we made it on that to be not to go with the Genegim Siyanka Fisher. We're not going to do that. The kid said, this was the psak then. I wasn't a learner that much, and I saw this. The my cigarette, the Bikur Yankiv, who's again the Alchaner, who's one of the Gedolei HaPaiskim on Sukkah and Da'al Minim, brings this down the Maisa by Da'al Minim, that a person should go ahead and make a bracha of shechayanu when you come to your Da'al Minim. The fact that I shake someone else's is not going to pattern my Da'al Minim. It's a very big chiddush. So now let me explain a little bit, and Rabbi Berger is bothered with it. That l'chayra had already a shechayanu. Why am I losing out? What's going on over there? The shechayanu is on the yeshiva. The teretz is that the Yanka Fisher had verstanden, and we're saying now the Yankiv already says this, that the din shechiyanu and the asiyah stays. It doesn't fall off on Yontif. When it comes Yontif, it's gone. That din shechiyanu bleibt, and we bound to bleibt. So therefore, I need to make a shechiyanu on the asiyah. A massive chiddush. I asked it to Chaim Kanievsky before I started B'Kir Yankiv, and he said, "Yesh Aimim shetzarach lachzor levarach." So he knew this, and he says there is such a day that you have to go ahead and make another bracha.
He meant the B'Kir Yaakov.
I'm sure that's what he meant. He never wrote Makaris, but that's what he told me. So you have
Erev Sukkot on the Asiyah, it counts. You don't
yes.
So why can't the other go this way also?
Oh, that's a good shaila.
Shiloh.
That's a whole. I have a whole arichas on that. Yeah.
All of it's different.
Yeah. See, let me repeat the shaila. The shaila is that we know this is a far-fetched case. No one's going to do this, but Taisus on the involved, and we pass him like that. That if someone lamaisa built the sukkah and decided, you know what, the Gemara tells me shachiyanu, I make on the asiyah. I want to make a shachiyanu today. I want to make 2 days before sukkah. I'm building the sukkah. I want to make shachiyanu. The halacha is that you are allowed to make shachiyanu, and you won't make a shachiyanu on Yontif.
What about the Dalminim? What about the Dalminim?
Dalminim also. If I would go ahead on Erev Yom.
Pater's a Dalminim?
No. That's not Dalminim.
No, it's like no.
Yeah, there's a Shainim on this. Yeah, I'm talking to the Meister. Tais doesn't say about Dalminim. What? Yeah.
That's going away from Yontif. That may be preferred. Because he's making us on the sukkah. He's not going to be in his sukkah on sukkahs. He's going to be in HSukkah on sukkahs.
Okay.
So he's making the sukkah because the Rav said before he's supposed to make a sukkah.
Oh no! Don't do that. Don't be naughty. Don't make you why. No. If you're going to go for Yontif, don't make a sukkah, please. This is a chiddush. There's a chiddush nifla here. We were saying chiddush.
I was about to do it. I was about to put my sukkah up.
Okay.
What about the Yontif?
It's like Taisus says this. Taisus says Memvav.
The bottom, yeah.
And the Taisus Maschal Nichnas. Taisus says, "Kivan the sukkah machmas chaka asya svaru." It's a svara. There's mandi do afal pisha birch bechol patu af bechag. There's man kig osi machmas mayit kasi afil below yantiv kedam lekamon. The Kitzur Taisus says this chiddush that if you're going to go ahead and make a bracha before yantiv shachayanu, you're not going to make a bracha even out the chag, because since the chag comes machmas sukkah, that's why you're not going to make the Mashiach and Dalminim not. That's what I'm saying this. But there are Rishonim, I know a Bashal. Yeah, there are Rishonim. There's Rishonim that say Paket from Taisus, but Taisus says this, and that's what I was referring to.
So let's get Reb Chaim Sachs. So what's
no? So Reb Chaim said, "Yesh Aimim shetzarach lachzor levarach." By this case, so I would tell you, if you're taki eating, if Mr. Yanka Fisher told me this, and Reb Chaim Kieski is writing that there is such a day, if you are by your children, let's say the first days, and you're coming on Chalamayid, get yourself maybe a Pri Chodesh again. If you're not Mechuyev, please. I'm just telling you that if you want to do that, then get yourself a Pri Chodesh and go ahead or a new suit. I don't know, suit, people don't make a bracha, depends. You have to know what your Baal Tekeya does. Second day Yontif, what they have that apple inside, the Shoshana. Yeah, Kapanim, that's it. Now, I asked him another shayla like this. If someone doesn't have room for everyone to sleep in the sukkah, so he decided, this shayla came to Shlomo Zalman. It was Negei in Panavish. It was a shayla Lemaisa. In Panavish, not everyone had room to sleep, or not all the Bachim had room to sleep in the sukkah. So they came and asked Shlomo Zalman, could you go ahead and pull the guy out in the middle of sleeping? Because once he's sleeping, when's the mitzvah? The mitzvah is going to sleep. Once he's sleeping, what that mitzvah are you getting? You're sleeping. So they asked this to Shlomo Zalman. Shlomo Zalman said 100% is mutter. Now, the Mensch wakes up when the guy gets pulled out like that. The Mensch wakes up. They knew this bucha, you can't go to this guy, he's a guarantee Ashluft. Then Ashluft, a tight Mensch. The kids are Maisa, so they asked this to Shlomo Zalman.
If you should wake him up?
No, wake him up, zicha asa. You carry him out while he's sleeping. And then he's going to go to sleep. And if Shlomo Zalman said, it's mutter gama to do this. Because the mitzvah is the going to sleep, not the sleeping. So I'm going to sleep, I'm sleeping, I'm good. Now, this is a whole arichas. I asked Shmuel Auerbach, that's how if really if Shlomo Zalman passed like this, or he was he was very hesitant to say what Rav Zalman really held. But this brought down today in Ali Chashleim already. Today it's already ungenum by the Welt. Rav Zalman, again, don't try this because the guy's going to wake up and you're going to get into Isav Gezel Shina. So I wouldn't go ahead and advise. This brought upon him. This was the Shaila. So I asked this to Reb Chaim Kanievsky. And he told me, obviously, Ein Leitzia, please don't take him out. Now, this can mean out Gezel Shina, this can mean out many things. Or he held that this Taka Kiyam Mitzvah every second, which that's a big clear within itself.
It's also honest. It's not a sport, it's honest.
Yeah. Now. Oh, okay, fine. Yeah, then I'll chase that guy out. They'll have a, yeah. Now, I asked him a shayla like this. You know, many people, when they don't have a shlach, so they have another eitzah. Put very, very thick schach, and kachavim is not ma'akev. You don't see the stars, not ma'akev. So you have very thick schach. Rain to get to it will take a few days. It'll take 3 days till the rain comes in. Where do we have HSukkah? Baba V'Sukkah is like that, right? You come there, it's raining. Brisk is thicker, but it's not that thick. Rain can't come in? After that, fine. Okay, if you have such a sukkah, so that. So the kids, the shaila is that a kosher sukkah? Again, we're going on the tzad that if rain can't come in, the sukkah is possible. So I asked him, is this a kosher sukkah? Because rain can't come in. It takes a few days. As I wrote to him that when it starts drying up, we're talking about like in Eretz especially, where they have thick, branches and this, they have live schach. Where else we have dead, right? We have cut chopped up, but over there it's live, and it shrinks throughout the yontif. It shrinks. So by the end of yontif, it's going to come in, but in the beginning of yontif, it's not going to come in. So I asked him, "Is that kosher?" So he told me, "Yitachin she'enoi tov." Okay. She'enoi tov, that it's not good. I'm not passing for any sukkah. I'm just telling you what he told me. Yeah. Now, I asked him a very interesting question. Let's say someone is mitzvah. He's part of him sitting in a sukkah, right? Mitzvah is part of him a sukkah.
How did that stem with we had twerp in the schach?
Oh, okay, right. So over there, yeah, okay, that's a good shot. I was asking him on the tzad that Geshamim is a problem. Yeah, but he's asking if Shlem is good. Yeah. Now, the shah is like this. Let's say someone on Yontif is mitzvah. Mitzvah, you're part of him a sukkah. The first night, maybe not, but upon him, the rest of Yontif, you're part of him sitting in the sukkah. So I asked him like this. Let's say you have another sibah to sit in the sukkah. Which means, I'll tell you a story that happened. Reb Chaim Oizer, God Lada. Someone once came to him, a guest came to him on Sukkot. And Reb Chaim Oizer was mitzvah. He was a zakah muflik. He was mitzvah for sitting in the sukkah. But he went in the sukkah and he said, because mitzvah achnos is oichem, there's no p'tur mitzvah. It's only sukkah that there's a p'tur mitzvah. But mitzvah achnos is oichem, I have a chiv to go into the sukkah. And Reb Chaim Oizer went into the sukkah.
And
right?
He made him the bed. He
made him the bed.
He made the guest the bed.
Really? So he went into the sukkah because the guest was in the sukkah. Mitzvah achnos is oichem. Again, Nama mitzvah, you don't say, okay, today I'm mitzvah, I'm not putting on film. There's no such thing. There's no mitzvah that you say, mitzvah. Sakana, vada. But mitzvah, there's no such thing. There's no such heta. Mitzvah, I'm not going to shake the alminim, I'm mitzvah. There's no such heta. What's the heta? By sukkah, since there's a din of teishuk and teduru, so we tell you, okay, for sukkahs, teishuk and teduru, so maybe you're not mechuyev to go ahead and sit in the sukkah because that's not the way you live in your house. So mitzvah, you don't live in the house. So the shaila was, but here I have a mitzvah achnosis oichem. Should I go ahead and sit in the sukkah? So he said that avada you mechuyev to go ahead, and Reb Chaim Oizer himself went in the sukkah. So I asked Reb Chaim Kanievsky, could you make a bracha if it was a mitzvah sukkah? Could you make now a bracha of leishav sukkah? Because since now you're going into the sukkah, you mechuyev to sit in the sukkah. Can I go ahead and make the bracha of leishav sukkah? So he told me that no, you cannot make a bracha because the only reason why you're sitting in the sukkah is not out mitzvah sukkah, is only out tzachnas tzarchem. So he said it's pashut that you can't go ahead and sit in the mitzvah sukkah. Okay, now we asked him like this. There's a very interesting halacha brought down from the Chazon Ish. The Chazon Ish paskins and Hilchos Shabbos. Nechas Erevin. Let's say I have a V, walls like a V, right? That's two walls, but it's in the shape of a V. How many sides are enclosed? 3, right? Here, this side, and this side, right? I have a V, I have 2 walls, but how many sides are enclosed?
Again, the V is like this. There's
The
only
V is
3
like
sides.
this.
There's only 3 sides, Lamaisa.
There's
One is open.
There's one side that's open, but 3 sides are enclosed.
Where do you have the third side with a V? That's the Shaila.
What do you mean? I have 3 sides enclosed. Yeah. I have 3 sides. No, even if not a
No,
tefah.
without the
I have
tefah.
3 sides enclosed. I
That's
can't
the
come
question.
into this place with 3 sides. Not in the back.
Is it
not
not
in the
4 or
sides.
is it actively 3? Oh, that's
Right.
Yeah.
You hear this, Rabbi Black? Why not? I have a very simple Erev. I enclose 3 sides, but it's 2 walls only. Right? Zok the Chazanish, and the Chaz Erevin, that's the Shabbos, that's called like 3 Tfanis, that works.
For a Mavli.
Yeah, for a mother, that's good enough. So if I have 2 like this, that's good enough. That's what the Chazanish and Erevin says. And
The Shaila never
the
came up
Erevin
before.
Simon Ayin Beis Oisei.
Kiddush.
Beis Tvanas Kemin Gam. I'm reading it the Chadlosh and Chazanish. Eino Nidin, is it considered Nidin Kigimel? He says, Avokol Shen Eskavu Zeh, Keneged Zeh, and Esmayat Allah Zeh, Nidon Kigimel Tvanas. This V is considered like 3 Tvanas. So I asked Reb Chaim Kanievsky, who had them by Sukkah like that? Could I go ahead and say, by Sukkah, as a din like 3 Tvanas? Do you like this question? Is that considered 3 Tvanas? So let me tell you, let me give you some hakdama to the Shaila, why I cleared the Shaila. There is, when I have, let's say I have a sukkah of 5 walls. Am I over on Baal Taisif? Ridiculous question, right? Let's not stay quiet for a minute because it's not so ridiculous. Taisus talks about this. Taisus is not in Masech Sukkah, but in the same value, maybe. Yeah, Rosh Hashanah. Taisus in Rosh Hashanah, the Avchav Ches Amid Beis. When Taisus is on the Sukkah of Baal Taisif, Taisus says that L'chayre, you should be over on Baal Taisif if I'm adding more than 4 walls. Peldig Taisus. One second. 3 walls might be good.
Let him work it out.
Yeah, no, okay. So you have to know. Okay, fine. So Taisus asked this kasha. Taisus on Chav Chesam at Beis in Rosh Hashanah. Believe it or not, ask the Shaila. The L'chayri should be over on Baal Taisif when I'm adding a 5th wall. I ask you a question. How could you add a 5th wall? What does it mean, a 5th wall? Pentagon. Yeah, a weird shaped porch. You can add it, right? You add a 5th wall. Yeah, pentagon. Okay? So Taisus has this kasha. What's Taisus' teretz? Taisus says, it's the end of the Taisus, the famous Taisus on Baal Taisif, with adding more kailis on Rosh Hashanah, and a kayin giving more brachas. The whole, you said, is the Taisus adding more dalad minim. You ever saw someone walk in? I think Sfaradim a lot of times, they walk in with a lot of hadasim, right? Right? Yeah. So that's this Taisus. So the bottom of the Taisus says, the coach can do. Taisus tries to say, and Taisus is discussing Dalit and who then Bahei, the same thing. Other Rishonim say is the halacha is we know the Gemara in Sukkah that Vavam at Beis. The Gemara says that when you have how many walls do you need? Shtayim kelchos and shnisa filu tefach. So by say any time I'm adding more to that, I'm being over Baal Taisif. Taisus says you're not being over Baal Taisif because there's Teishu can to do you and you're enclosing it more. Therefore, you're not being over on Baal Taisif. As I state in Taisus. Now, who are then 5 Tvanas? You're not being over Baal Taisif because obviously my sukkah is a pentagon, which means it's going to be open. If it's going to be 4, it's going to be open somewhat. So therefore, I put a 5th one. I'm enclosing it more. So I'm more Taishu can't do it. It's more of an enclosed situation. So therefore, it'll be mutter. That's what's mashma from Taisvis. Now, the Gemara in Zvachim, the Aflamet Zayin Amid Beis has a Havamin. Maybe a sukkah needs 5 tvanis. As I like the Gemara. Why? Because it says basukas, ahani mikkev, ahani mesaris. So you need 5 tvanis. Zok the biskarov, fact the biskarov. What does it mean 5 tvanis? I mean, the sukkah has to be enclosed. There's only 4. There's mizrach, ma'av, tzaf, and that's all there is. 5 tvanis doesn't mean it's. What does it mean another doifen? If I make a doifen like this, then I go like this, then I go like this, so you have 25 tvanis. If you start moving every inch another direction, so all of a sudden that's called a sukkah of 25 walls. Or the vart is that it's enclosed. 5, it's enclosed 4 on 4 sides. Zok the Briskirov, it's mavur from this Gemara that tfanis by sukkah is a shame doifen, not how it's enclosed. Yeah?
And therefore could be about Taisif.
And therefore could be about Taisif. And therefore maybe I'm a chuyev to make 5 walls. So if so, here comes my question to Reb Chaim Kanievsky. If it's a din tfanis, so now when I make a V, even though I'm enclosed in 3 places, over the Maisa, I only have 2 tfanis. So maybe don't compare me to Hilchas Shabbos and Hilchas Erevin. You hear the lumnus? You hear what's going on here? That was my question to Reb Chaim Kanievsky. So when I have 2 tfanis,
it's only leave this briskarov. The shaila is only.
Yeah, I'm not saying he knew the briskarov because it's not briskarov in Sefer.
Right.
It's in Bia Shmuas, which I heard in the shiurim when I was learning in Brisk. So that's why I was all excited to ask the question. But I figured the Havmei Gemara he had to know. The Gemara is having 5 walls. So I asked him the shaila. So let me ask you a question. The Gemara says sukkah agula is kasha, a round sukkah. How many walls does that have? So Asemes Klez, a half a circle, or 3/4 of a circle. Right? There you're stuck. So you have to know how to answer that. I'm not going into that now. But Al Kapanim, so this was my question. So he answered me, Yitachen the sukkah zug sheira. Yitachen. That means he was misopik and he said Yitachen is kasha. Later on I have an uncle that put out Rishimus Leib. I don't know if you ever heard of it. It's a Hutner Shiurim. He sat by Hutner and he wrote his Shiurim. And he has one, he has on the Yom Tovim, and then he has one on the Masechta Sukkah. So it's called Rishimus Leib. He lives in Flatbush, Talmud Chacham. So he writes over there, Rav Hutner said in the Shir, that it's Vadai Kasher, such a Sukkah. When you have a Sukkah made of V, even though you only have 2 walls, it's Vadai Kasher. And I asked this later on, I asked this to Moshe Stambach and to Mr. Kirelitz and Mr. Kreiser. Everyone agreed that this Sukkah is Kasher. But we have a little bit of a problem, which we're not going to answer now, with this Gemara in Sukkah, to know if this is going to be considered a kosher Sukkah, because it is a din tfanis by Sukkah, and therefore I would need daifen. Okay, let's move on now to more. Yeah.
There's a difference between the pizzas and tfanis.
Okay, fine. Yeah. Now, we have many shilas, and let's try to move on to some interesting ones. If a person, do you know that when you put up the schach, you have to have in mind that you're putting it up l'shem? Sale, not l'shem schach. Because mitzvahs you don't need to have that. We pass like this hill. It doesn't need to be l'shma. But it has to be l'shem tzel. That's what it has to be. Now, that means that could a guy put up a sukkah?
Ganvach is kosher.
Ganvach is kosher. Do you know Rabbi Saul Gusman was very makbid that even though Ganvach is kosher, he would make you take it down. And though Telza was very negeya, he would make you take it down. But
Ninua is not good enough?
It's another shayla I asked of Chaim Kanievsky, which was very negeya recently, that last year was negeya, and 2 years ago I think it was also negeya. I got the shayla a lot, that many people would go ahead, and it was raining before Yom Tov, so they would put the schach on while the shlach is on. Easy. Tasselem and Asir. So good, so I told them the first night, they come into shul, and I say, Tasselem and Asir. Now it's not the holidays, but a lot of shittas hold like that, it's Tasselem and Asir. So the shaila is, okay, you have to lift it up. How hard do you have to lift it? How much? Gimel Tvachim. Where in the world do you know that from? The Manchester Yeshiva Zatzal, Abu Yehuda Segel, said that you have to pick it up 3 Tvachim. It's brought down, quoted in the Oznidru. 3 Tvachim. Why? Why 3 Tvachim? To take it out of Lovad. Now that's a big problem. Because let's say you have a mat, if part of it is on, you need 6 people to pick that up 3 Tvachim. At least. Right? Because it's heavy, first of all, depends how big it is, but it's pretty heavy. And you're going to go ahead and raise that. In 3 Tvachim is pretty high. And you're going to go, and sometimes it's very difficult.
Even bamboos is not so easy.
Right. Bamboo, each one, so you pick up, it takes time.
But the whole thing has to be up simultaneously at the same time.
You have to move up. It's not enough just one area.
Zion, you could sit under that part. What's going to be with your children? Zug ze nicht. So Reb Chaim Kanievsky asked Reb Chaim Kanievsky, how hard do you have to raise it? He says a mashu. And that's what we pass on the Meister. Yashuv told me, a mashu is enough. 3 Tvachim is a chumrah of a chumrah.
Why? What about Lavud?
Because there's no Lavud to Asa over here. We don't go ahead and Lavud is a chiddush de gedin. We don't say Lavud like this. That's what they said. But that's not what I was coming to talk about. What I wanted to know was, now let's say you're mesupik if you put it up l'shem tzeh. You're putting it up, you're in a rush. Let's say you know that I'm having Kippur already. Matzah Yom Kippur, it's late at night, but you know the din, that you're supposed to do right away, you're supposed to do mitzvah sukkah. Right away. Why not mitzvah lulav? Why mitzvah sukkah dafka? I asked the sister.
The Ramah said it twice.
Right. Tafesh Chav Dalam, Tafesh Chav Hey. I talk about that also. But upon him, the shaila is why did he say dafka sukkah and not lulav? I asked this to Chaim Kanievsky once. Okay.
The Veld says because you to put your whole body into the mitzvah Nachem Kippur, so it doesn't apply.
Yeah, we have a lot of truths in this. He answered me. I'll tell you what he answered me. He answered that Lulavei Matzah La'asiga b'Matzayim Kippurim. He didn't live in Lakewood or something like that. That everything's open Matzah Yom Kippur. So he said a sukkah is in your house. Lulav, no one's opening up shop. But really, he felt that no problem, you could do that. But like upon him, I asked him also that going to a mitzvah is you get schar alicha. Says their mitzvah of walking schar psiyas, walking to your sukkah. And, we know that if you have 2 if you have 2 batik nesiyas, that's very dependent. You should go to the further one because you get schar psiyas. Now you have to know how to do this halacha. Please don't start. But I'm saying, but like upon him, so I asked him by sukkah, is this schar psiyas? So on this he told me,
you should build your sukkah a little further away to walk.
Yeah. What?
No, you have to come back in a few minutes.
Yeah. Okay.
What's like? Why isn't there? Is there an umdina that you're putting it up? Let's get back to let's sale.
Yeah.
Is there such a thing as an umdina you're putting it up l'shem sale?
Okay. So this is a very wichtige shaila. So the shaila is that I asked him. Now, let's say many times it takes you a while to put up the schach. It takes time. So you put up one at, a few of them at 1 o'clock, then you take a lunch break, and then you put up at 2 o'clock, and then you take a rest period. And then, it's 2-3 days that it takes you putting up the schach. So I said, if I put up part of it, l'shem tzeh, I started putting up l'shem tzeh. Is that enough for me? And the rest is it. He said, no, as it didn't like schach puzzle. He didn't put up l'shem tzeh. His lashon was masha'ena l'tzel dinik schach puzzle. I said, should the whole sukkah be kosher? He says, no. It's didn't like schach puzzle. I'm not telling you.
Why doesn't it go basar aschala as other mitzvahs?
So that's what I said. If there's a hefsek, but you're right. I'm not telling you like mezuzah. Mezuzah, you know how to talk out. If you make the bracha, you know how to talk out till you put up all the mezuzahs in your house. If not, you have to make another bracha. We have to by other mitzvahs.
So just Galvan, they didn't have kavanah for sale. They just made it. The tziyas is made for sale.
No, so that's kavanah l'shem tzeh. What do you think it is?
So he's also
what do you mean? What's the difference between mitzias and making it?
So what's that? The Rav is saying that a person has to say Hareini mechaven l'shem tzeh. Sometimes could you do it stamma?
Stamma, you have. Well, yeah. I mean, I make sure that my kids.
Mechaven l'shem tzeh when you put the sukkah up.
What?
What about you hire somebody to put up your sukkah?
You tell that person and the
All the kids are putting up sukkahs there. They're mechavan l'shem
You
tzel.
better tell them. All the bachim that you pay them $25 an hour to put up a schach, you stand in the beginning. Stamazah, you should know. Mitzvah Yesim B'shlucha, even the Talmud Chacham, we know is mechuyev to put up the schach. I asked him Chaim Kanievsky Gather once how many schach he was mechuyev to put up to get this din. If you mechuyev to put up your whole sukkah, he said no. Because when you put up a shir, which is Zion al Zion, you're fine. There's no more in you to do more than that. I asked him then with the Gemara and Kedushin. I don't know what time it is.
So if somebody makes your sukkah, you got to make minu shlichus, and you got to tell them that it has to be l'shem tzel.
Yeah, I'm saying no. You don't have to do minish lichas, but Akapanim make sure that the bacha knows that he's putting it up the same tzel. Yeah, 100%. Now, no.
So you don't need the same sukkah.
I don't know what the same sukkah means. L'shma, the shma of the sukkah. It doesn't say.
That's
No.
what I meant with Umdana.
So I'll tell you, Moshe Sternberg.
Yeah.
Moshe Sternberg discusses this, by the way,
I took the Remiza.
in a tshuva.
The big chumrah.
Well, it's not such a chumrah. What's that? I'll explain like this.
The chumrah when the Welt started getting other people to build your sukkahs. That's when it comes.
That's probably where we can make problems. The Reb Chatzkel, you're Reb Chatzkel Abramsky, right? Baal Chazon Yechatzkel. He was mechaven dafka to say l'shem tzel, and he said lahedya not to say l'shem mitzvah sukkah, because that's by yeshiva sukkah. That's not by over here. Now I'm not telling you you're okay if you did it. I'm not telling you not, but it's very clear that it's zicha better not to. Now there's a shaila about this. Moshe Sternberg has all tshuva on this. That I'm not saying there's a shaila if you have to say a bepeh. I asked Reb Chaim Kanievsky, and he said it's enough b'kavana. That's another shaila. If you have to say it's enough b'kavana, fine. The Moedim is manim. He says ein zem ikad in the tzarich amir, but I really should try to say about amir. The Sfas Emes, the Ger Rebbe, he says on Aftes Amar Aleph in the sugi over there, he says you should say it b'piv. But okay, we don't pass you have to say it b'piv. It's good night to go ahead and.
Can you do it retroactively?
Now,
Once it's
no,
on?
you're done. So now- oh, you shake it afterwards. I'm showing for us the bucha to do it if you have to shake it. You say in the beginning that's enough. I'm not again. You don't have to say it. Kavan is also enough. And I agree a little bit. I'm just making a little bit more levitic, but I agree passions with the Oilam that once you're putting it up there, you want to sit in shade. I mean, that's really like what are you doing it for?
No, is that true? You want to sit in the shade? Would you normally do that?
That's not l'shem tzel. L'shem tzel is a pras l'shem tzel. That's why a guy could do it. Why could a guy do it? It can't be mechavan other mitzvahs because it's taken not in mitzvahs, just l'shem tzel. That is what I have to do. So now,
But
so ask
the
Chaim
Rabbi
Kanievsky,
saying
let's
you
say,
normally would put up something the same say.
I don't know. I'm trying to be down like schos.
If it wasn't a mitzvah, we would be sitting up, putting up huts on our patios. No. The Chanesh.
Because then it would be too much sun.
It depends.
Oh,
It
to
could be-
say that the fanas, once I have the fanas, I have to cover it. That's what you're telling me.
It could be. So now,
That's what I asked. So to Umdani, you're putting on sale.
You're putting
But
on
the Rav
sale.
said you have to have kavanim and foreshes. He's been chaylik with that.
so I asked him if someone is misupik, if he did it or not. He comes into Yom Tov, he doesn't remember. if it's
Fake
the
it
thing.
deraisa.
That's exactly what he said. Svelke v'dayraisa l'chumra. No jokes. Sofik dayraisa l'chumra. So it's a pachad. L'may cigarette, I believe that the oilam mistama is right, somewhat, and we'll say that the fact that you went ahead and you putting a roof there, what are you putting a roof for? You sit in the sun, what are you putting? Because you don't want to get a sunburn while you're going ahead and what? Yeah. Right. Now, I don't know what the times.
Keep on going. When Rabbi Weiss comes on, he comes on.
I just
Usually comes on late. Yeah, he'll come
Oh,
on.
okay,
I
fine.
think.
Oh, it is late already. Okay, fine.
No, but
Okay.
when he comes
He comes on. Okay,
That's what
I don't want to jump people again.
Keep on going until he comes in.
Okay, fine. We asked him a shayla like this. It's Benimtza today, especially people go away chalamoid on trips, and is that called harchad drachim b'chlal? And harchad drachim is part of a sukkah. Yeah, Heichad Racham is me'ikar din, part of a sukkah. Does that consider Heichad Racham? So I go to Shaila, and Moshe writes fire against it. Yeah, he says, don't go on trips. What are you going on trips for? And the Olam is very much me and Moshe, what's the problem? So go to the Olam today, you're afraid to argue when Moshe's mamish, he has a whole truth on this. That you know.
Said his mutter now.
Yeah, the kids said, so what do people do today? They take a car and you just buy a few schach, and you can go, you open the two side doors of the car, and if you have a SUV or something like that, then you can open the back of your car, and you have your two doors, and you put schach on top of it. So you're putting schach on top of your doors, and then you have a regular sukkah. You have doifen akuma to the front of the car, you have two walls like this, and kasher sukkah. Good? Get the Eitzah, whole chalamoid, you have no problem. You open the doors, you close the doors, you make the sukkah, you break down the sukkah, no problem, B'chlal. I wouldn't advise doing it on Yantif, but on chalamoid, a very easy, simple Eitzah. Today, they came out with another Eitzah. You go ahead and you have a pop-up sukkah, and that's it, it's blown up, and there you go. That I would be a little bit more worried, because if you have to make sure it's tight, because if it's in a windy area, you go to Niagara and it's blowing, you're not Yaitza B'chlal. If your sukkah, if the wall blows 3 tvachim, finished ice sukkah.
That's true of every canvas sukkah in your house.
So canvas sukkah, a lot of times today, the sellers, they make a string, they have love it over there, and that doesn't blow.
That's only recent. Until about 10
only
years
recent.
ago,
I remember,
they didn't do that.
I remember walking in Borough Park. I remember walking to pizza shops. I was walking. How is anyone sitting in the sukkah? It's not yaitz. Not yaitz. And I went to the Rav Machshav of the store. Chashavid. I told him, "You're giving a cash on the pizza, but there's a sukkah over there that everyone's eating in it. And I don't care if you make a mitzvah mezainis, whatever bracha you want to make. Pizza needs sukkah. So I told him, if so, you have to have your sukkah fixed. And he told me he's not machsh on that, he's machsh on this, like upon him. But getting back to this, so I asked him, Chaim Kanievsky, can I make a sukkah with my car?
He understood the seer exactly.
I told him mechanit. He knows what a car was. No, we couldn't. So he told me lama loy. Now let me explain what my question is. And I have a whole tshuva on this, a 20-page tshuva about the shaila. Because a few noisim. First of all, the shaila is as follows. We know that atzei tfana is asabana. So what do? You take your car. Okay, if you're going to park your car there all 7 days, I'm totally fine. But that's not what you're doing. What are you going to do? You're going to go ahead, you're going to famach the tirin, you're going to go ahead and close the doors, and then what's going to happen? You're going to go ahead and use the car, continue driving. Now, if you don't have those doors, you're falling right out. Right? So you need those doors to hold your luggage, and you're having a no of the walls of the sukkah for different anos. Asagama. More than that, you go ahead. Let's say the walls, you're not putting any luggage in the back seat. You really don't care if the doors are open and closed. Fine. Okay? So you know what? You know what you do? You have the karka over there. That what happens? You move on. Everyone comes in the rest area, right? A guy Kim Dalton, sits Dalton, and here goes. He's having enough on the karka sukkah. Yesterday's karka sukkah, he's having enough. Maybe you have to be a shayma. Stay there for 7 days. No one's allowed to step in this area. For not tashmish of a sukkah.
Why can't you stay on the pop sukkah the
same thing? I just wasn't going to explain if Chaim Kevsky what a pop-up sukkah is.
The pop-up shaila.
Shaish Rams that we know, the famous in Borough Park, they give them 7 days to take it down. They have some sukkahs. Bells in Borough Park, I think.
In Lakewood, they give you a month. So.
Yeah. So on 16th Avenue, like on 40 something over there. Okay, yes. The kids said, so okay, fine, that's another shayla, I guess or not. But like upon him, you only cannot.
Yeah, let's go back. Let's finish.
Kind of the kaka. Okay, fine. Kind of the kaka, but the shayla is if you could do that or not. So on this, I discussed this with many gedalim gather because it's pretty bothersome that people are going in and doing this, and it's not like it's so. In the back of my safe, I wrote a whole tshuva on this shaila.
So I was talking about pop-ups or cars? Which one?
Cars. I was talking about cars.
You ever saw them make a sukkah with a car?
And I asked this to Chaim Kanievsky.
You made such a thing? You carried bamboo in your car? A mats.
It's a mess. The easiest way. You don't need no pop-up, no goodness. You go. You must tell me you do it every year.
Well,
Yeah,
you open up the two sides. You open up the two doors.
Two doors, and you have
and you
Zion.
crawl underneath, or what?
It's Teich Gimel. It's Teich Gimel.
No,
Make
but
sure.
it's only as high as the door. So
You sit there. You could sit in a chair.
you're not talking about a convertible with the top of the roof.
No,
So it's
no, not
low,
a
it's very
convertible.
low.
You have a regular. Yeah, it's the same one. What's the big? Outside, no.
I know it's a sheer.
He
but
did it, no. That tzaddik over here did it, no.
Kids.
But that's
can
not
sit there.
right.
Okay, let's not talk Matthias. Let's go to the
Yeah, it's
lobby.
all Zion.
Okay.
So again, I told you I have 13 anafim on the shaila to start being done with the whole sugya of what becomes asabano, it's not asabano. And Reb Chaim Kanievsky answered me, avada it's chal kedusha on the walls. You have to make a t'nai. Don't get scared. You did it already, He said, you have to make a t'nai, and even a t'nai, he said, it's not so pashut.
Well, otherwise your car becomes
Otherwise,
under.
you're done. Get yourself, lease another car. Park the car, and lease another car.
Wow.
Yeah?
This is a chumrah. This is a mama.
I don't know if it's a chumrah. Absender Kreiser told me the same thing, and Mr. Karelis told me the same thing. You hear what's going on here? That you have to make it tonight. If not,
Well, it's like the defanis don't become. The defanis become.
Fans come sure. That's what I discussed a lot.
So you have to
I'm
say
in the rush.
any boidel.
Chaim,
You have to say
answer
any
us.
boidel before Shabbos on the sukkah doesn't
Yeah,
exist
you'll
yet.
have to say beforehand.
Well, it doesn't exist yet. How can you say any boidel if it doesn't exist? Can you
We're
say
not
any
gonna make
boidel at P'tnai if you're making the sukkah b'chag? Good shiloh, boss.
Yeah. Now
The floors.
the floor. So you'll say that this floor is a tonight. Only
parking
Kozman.
lot.
Kozman, the sukkah is there.
Now your floor.
Yeah. The floor is much lighter. I and Sham I'm telling you, I have 13 and a half.
20
They
pages.
discussed this exactly. What if the tfanas become us? If not, what type I know the tfanas? Maybe it's only if you're being memayet to the tfanas, not stam if you're using it. Against the nice about this. The Maisa, that's what they answered. But Nichan Daiti, the Moshe Steinbach told me that you don't have to make a tonight because stam das is a tonight. This is so clear that obviously you're not planning on keeping your doors open the whole yontif. So it's so clear.
Sunroof. Sound the sunroof. Okay.
Sunroof of the car. People do that.
What do you mean?
It's not Zion al Zion. It's not Zion al Zion.
Well, the car can't be Zion al Zion. Why?
Oh, you mean the convertible in Gansen?
No. First
So
of
this
all,
is gonna need
let's
the
say a
car.
sunroof. There has to be Zion al Zion. The area of the sunroof.
We know that you need
Who
Zion al
says
Zion.
that's Zion Tvachim? Zion Tvachim. That's not how big Zion Tvachim.
So yeah, we are sitting also. It's a mitten.
Well, how
That's what it's
how big
about.
sunroofs are pretty big.
It's not Zion al Zion first of all. Zion Tvachim.
Sure.
Two.
How much
Yeah,
Zion
I don't
Tvachim? Zion Tvachim is 2
That's
feet.
not Teshuvah to do. You
2
can't even
feet.
sit.
No, it's 2 feet.
You can't sit there. It's not on top of a seat. It's in the middle of the 4 seats. Where are you going to be?
With the seat.
No, that's very okay. Listen, if you have it's not the normal.
Someone's going to his in-laws.
Okay.
Flying on a plane. It's not going on vacation, doing nothing. And he's just flying on a plane. Can he eat on the plane?
Oh, it's a different question. What do you mean? Kva?
Yeah, eat.
No, a raw you can eat on the plane. Why
Oh.
not? You're talking about kva. You want a bench? You want to wash on the
Yeah.
plane?
No, the Berger's asking a very simple question. When the Gemara says Haychadrochim, what do you think they were doing? Not to work. Haychadrochim, they're going on a derech. Zok the Gemara, it's a potter from Sukkah.
Everybody, so we're expecting the Rav to come on in any moment. So just everybody hang on. I want to call him. Not really.
The Gemara says Haychadrochim b'yayim, Pturim min Sukkah b'yayim. Haychadrochim b'layla, Pturim min Sukkah b'layla. Fact, Rabbi Berger, why can I go like a tchila on a trip on Yontif and say that I'm not sitting in the sukkah? I'm not forget I don't want to eat vegetables and carrots. I want to eat a regular sandwich. I'm weak now. I want to eat a sandwich. I say, fact, Rabbi Berger, which is a very, very valid ha'ara. And the answer to that ha'ara is that a Moshe, like we're saying, a Moshe writes that that's not called Haychadrochim. Haychadrochim means that there's really a purpose. If you stop going to have a vacation, that's not considered Haychadrochim. But, like Rabbi Berger is saying, if you're going to your in-laws, and you that's if not, you know it's going to be, right? So that's not something that's for pleasure. So on that, even maybe a Moshe would agree that is mutter gama to eat. Not only that, if you don't, you're being mitzvah yourself. I asked Reb Chaim Kanievsky once. Again, the reason why today we were discussing Reb Chaim Kanievsky shadows that I asked him, and that's why we're talking about him a lot. Okay, fine. That was the first shot we discussed.
You at home, you mean?
Yeah. So I asked this to Reb Chaim Kanievsky, are you allowed, let's say someone, he's machmeh on drinking everything in the sukkah, everything he's doing in the sukkah. You're on a chalamayit trip with your family, and you're outside, and you're getting a little hot, but I'm machmeh. Do you say that or not? Do you say I'm machmeh, you should be machmeh, or you say no, you're being mitzvah yourself. Mitzvah b'yontif is a isidar yaisa. You're going out and you're being machmeh on your cup of water because you're from a yid, and now here it goes, you're being mitzvah yourself.
How can a mitzvah create a mitzvah?
I'm being mitzvah. Someone just asked.
So 1 second. Finished.
Someone wants to know is Reb Asher Weiss speaking.
Yes, he's coming on. He's coming on in a moment or two. I don't understand. If you're machmer not to make a shakel chutz sukkah, you're being mitzvah yourself?
No, because normally I'm in the kitchen and I go ahead and I walk into the dining room. But if you're sitting in shul and the shlif tzacham, and you go ahead and you say, I'm not drinking coffee. I'm not drinking coffee out of the sukkah. And there goes, you mitzvah yourself. You're bumping your head every 2 minutes into Gemara. And like this, you drink a coffee. You're much better, right? So what do? So Avada said you mitzvah, and adrabah, by you not drinking in the sukkah, you're taking a chumrah, which is also the day the chumrah, which is also the day to be over on the mitzvah. With the Torah, okay, yeah. But like upon him, that's the chayav pasha. Don't take on chumras and then be mitzvah. Now, many times the person not mitzvah, he knows that for him it's okay. Fine, that's a beautiful thing. I also asked him, let's say, do you know that Tefillah Saderech, you're supposed to have a bracha smucha l'chavata. So, make it then you're supposed to have a bracha smucha l'chavata. This year is makbid to eat everything in the sukkah. He's on the road now, he's going on a chalamoid trip, and you have to, not you have to, but the mechaber, people are very makel on this, but really the mechaber says that you're supposed to have bracha smucha l'chavata. People are makel. I'm not going to the whole Tefillah Saderech now, I have a whole share on this itself, why you could be makel, why not. But like upon him, the shaila is that you have a bracha smucha l'chavata. Should I say, I don't eat out of the sukkah, or rather do bracha smucha l'chavata? You hear this? This is command to get every single chalamoid trip. Because go out to the bathroom. Do you know that if Shach asked Shlomo Zalman and Rabbi Yashiv that when he's going from Bnei Brak to Yerushalayim, Amal, you didn't see so much brachas smucha l'chavata because people didn't stop eating. There was no gnashing, but you didn't see the gnashing stam on food. So they weren't makbid so much in this brachas smucha l'chavata. So Shach said, I'll go to the bathroom right before. You don't say Tefillah Saderech right when in Bnei Brak. It takes 10 minutes till you get to the highway, and then you'll say that the brachas smucha l'chavata. So Meli asked, maybe I should wait to make the Asher Yotzah till the 10 minutes in. And Rabbi Yashiv told him, no, that's too long of a hefsek. You're supposed to make Asher Yotzah right away. Forget the bracha smucha l'chavata. Rather go ahead and make the bracha right away. That's what Yashiv told him. What? No. Say Tefillah Saderech by itself and say the Asher Yotzah right away, and that's it. Shlomo Zalman told him, I don't say Tefillah Saderech from Bnei Brak to Yerushalayim, so I don't have the whole question. So he didn't answer the question, the kid said. That was Shlomo Zalman's answer to the Shaila. So we still don't know what Shlomo Zalman would say with those 10 minutes. But upon him, so Bekitza, getting back to our Shaila. If someone is machmir to make sure to eat everything in the sukkah, he wants to be a reizim meshubach de geyid, like the Rambam says. Should he go ahead and drink something or eat a shahakal out of the sukkah to make brachas smucha l'chavata or not? Now, if you're a yid that doesn't make brachas smucha l'chavata, then there's no such question. But let's say you're someone that's machmir. You learned the sukkah Tefillah Saderech, and you came out. Yes, you always make sure there's a piece of candy in there's a piece of whatever it is, something that you can make a bracha smucha l'chavata. So but this guy's a reizim meshubach. He doesn't want to have any time, nothing. Okay, we're not going to go into whole sukkah Tefillah Saderech. There is such a halacha. We know that David Soloveitchik, he would stand up, he would stop the car, and he would stand up and say You ever saw someone doing that? No. There's a good reason for that. I'm saying rather keep yourself safe than stand up in the middle of the highway. Yeah. You should take besamim. Daniel Khan, yeah, that's a good idea. Also, people have in the car always besamim, that they would smell the besamim. Whatever it is. Yeah. Now, so the shaila is, should you do this? Is he coming on today?
Coming on 2 minutes.
Okay. How long? It's 5 minutes. Bekitzer. Okay. So we have over here. So that was the shaila I asked of Chaim Kanievsky. Should I go ahead and make this bracha of rather should you be machma or not? And he answered that do not rather make a bracha smucha l'chavita than be machma on the machma tavel of bracha. Again, someone's talking machma itself. He's just said a good answer. I don't know, Daniel Khan, I think that was a very good answer. Was yes to take besamim. But again, does anyone do that during the year? I'm coming on with new things over here. Does anyone make tefillah tzedach bracha smucha l'chavita? You do. I also do.
Shaka with me. Everybody knows the candy, and everybody knows all this.
You don't?
Okay, so
okay, I'm not going into that.
What's the here?
That's a very, very big b'diavad you just tell that person. Very big b'diavad. Now, I'm not going into that. I know there are people that do that. I know there are people that also feel that when it comes to tefillah tzedach, since they do it every day, they're part. I just want to say one thing. This is important. That's what I'm saying, and I'm stopping from this for a minute. That you know that many people they travel back and forth and they Baruch Hashem they're safe. You know that there's the Avram that he says that the Gemara says that ask for shus. The Gemara says Hamlech b'kainich would say this. The Gemara in Brachas ask the shus by Baruch Hashem, and then you go out. Yeah, what's saying the shus? The shus is saying tefillah tzedach. Again, we got a little sidetrack here. We have many more tshuvas from Chaim Kanievsky that we could discuss on Sukkah. But I'll tell you this nakuda quick. There's he says as follows. He says that really, do you know that when you're in a nace and you're not mispal, then the Baruch says menakim le'mischiyosef. It's a gemara. And if you're in a nace and you're not mispal, menakim le'mischiyosef. He says you could get saved every time you drive, but every time you drive without tefillah tzedach and you got saved is menakim le'mischiyosef. It's a pachad. Say tefillah tzedach. Rabbi Yashiv says you can say tefillah tzedach every time there's a suffix. You can say tefillah tzedach. Why? Because it's a tefillah. It's not a bracha. So you go and get it, you're being machma, not saying tefillah tzedach, and he goes, and you're losing out that din. So therefore, when it comes to the hilchos tefillah tzedach, I see the Rav is here, don't be so quick to say that, okay, I'm not saying it, and that's it. Okay.
Okay, yes, HaRav. It's a pleasure